In the heart of that isolated, moonlit town, hidden away deep within the ancient, encroaching forest, the asylum stood as a forbidding relic of the past, a place where the night shift horrors had become the stuff of legends. My tale, dear listeners, is not just a story. It's a first-hand account of the unspeakable terrors that unfolded within those sinister walls. One fateful night, when the moon hung low in the sky and the dense forest whispered unsettling secrets, I, a young and desperate nurse named Sarah, ventured into the unknown as I took on a new assignment at the asylum. A profound sense of foreboding enveloped me as I approached the towering structure, its decrepit exterior radiating an overwhelming malevolence. The chilling night winds carried with them whispers that hinted at the horrors that lay in wait. My duty for the night seemed straightforward: to keep vigil over the comatose patients confined to the isolated wing. As the hours crept by, the silence of the night was intermittently shattered by eerie sounds that reverberated through the convoluted hallways. Creaking floorboards, ethereal murmurs, and the faintest of footsteps conspired to fray my nerves. With each passing minute, my anxiety deepened, and my imagination ran wild, conjuring apparitions lurking in the shadows. The unsteady beam of my flashlight painted grotesque, ever-shifting specters on the peeling wallpaper, amplifying my mounting terror. In the midst of this eerie silence, a soft, haunting melody began to waft through the air. A music box, its tune both enchanting and unsettling. It beckoned me, pulling me like a moth to a flame. I had no choice but to follow its ethereal strains through the labyrinthine corridors. Rounding a corner, I found myself in a long-forgotten children's ward, the music box resting atop a decrepit crib. Its lullaby swelled, captivating me like an enchantress's spell. I approached the crib with trembling hands, drawn into an uncharted realm of the unknown. In an instant, the room was plunged into inky darkness, and the unsettling laughter of unseen children filled the air. Whispering voices, their words laced with bone-chilling dread, called my name, their presence a sinister embrace. Panic and disorientation overcame me, and I stumbled back, but an unseen force gripped my wrist with an icy intensity, pulling me back into the abyss. My screams shattered the asylum's oppressive stillness, a harrowing echo of my presence. When the morning light finally broke, the asylum staff found the building in an eerie calm, the music box still perched on the crib, its haunting melody the only testament to the horrors that transpired. I, Sarah, had vanished without a trace, and the legend of the asylum's night shift terrors grew, ensuring that no soul would ever dare to tread within those cursed walls again. In the heart of a remote, forgotten town, shrouded deep within the eerie embrace of an ancient, sprawling forest, there stood a foreboding asylum. This asylum had long been a focal point for spine-tingling tales, especially those told in hushed voices about the unimaginable horrors that unfolded during the dreaded night shifts. But this story I'm about to recount isn't just a tale. It's an intimate first-hand account of the inexplicable events that transpired within those ominous walls. It all began on a night where the moon hung low, casting an otherworldly glow that seemed to bring the very shadows to life. As I, a young and hopeful nurse by the name of John, approached the asylum, I couldn't ignore the palpable sense of unease that clung to the very air. The night was thick with a foreboding sense of anticipation, and the wind that whispered through the forest carried with it secrets that only the bravest would dare uncover. My mission for the night seemed simple enough: to keep a vigilant eye on the comatose patients confined to the isolated wing. Yet, as the hours ticked away, the silence of the night was intermittently broken by eerie sounds that seemed to reverberate through the maze-like corridors. Creaking floorboards, ghostly whispers, and the faint, almost ethereal footsteps that echoed in the darkness combined to keep my nerves on edge. With each passing moment, my anxiety deepened, and my mind began to conjure a multitude of sinister apparitions that lurked in the shadows. The beam of my flickering flashlight cast grotesque, ever-shifting shapes on the peeling wallpaper, heightening the sense of dread that gripped my very soul. But then, amidst the oppressive silence, a soft, haunting melody began to drift through the air. It was the music box, and its tune was both enchanting and deeply unsettling. Its siren-like call was irresistible, drawing me into a trance-like state. I found myself compelled to follow its eerie strains as they wove through the dimly lit, winding corridors. As I rounded a corner, I stumbled upon a long-forgotten children's ward. There it was, the music box, perched on a tattered crib. Its lullaby grew louder, its enchantment more hypnotic, and I couldn't resist approaching it. But as I did, the room was plunged into darkness, and the unsettling laughter of invisible children filled the air. Whispers, their words laced with a bone-chilling dread, called my name, and my heart froze in terror. Panic and disorientation overcame me, and I stumbled back, but an unseen force seized my wrist with an icy grip, pulling me back into the abyss of darkness. My screams pierced the asylum's oppressive stillness, echoing the sheer terror of that fateful night. When the morning light finally broke, the asylum staff found the building in an eerie calm. The music box sat atop the crib, its haunting melody the only testimony to the horrors that had transpired. But I, John, had disappeared without a trace, and the legend of the asylum's night shift horrors grew, making sure no one would ever dare to step into those accursed walls again. Now, let's delve deeper into the harrowing tale of that forsaken asylum, a place where reality and nightmares became one, and where the boundary between the living and the dead grew increasingly thin as the night wore on. As I entered the asylum that night, the feeling of dread that had weighed upon me from the very moment I had stepped foot in that forsaken place seemed to intensify. The dim, flickering lights overhead only added to the overall sense of unease. Each footstep echoed through the hollow corridors, like a reminder of the isolation that lay ahead. The assignment appeared simple enough: keep an eye on the comatose patients. The isolated wing, as I would soon discover, was a maze of crumbling walls, peeling paint, and long-forgotten memories. The patients lay in rooms tucked away at the far end of dimly lit hallways, their immobile forms resembling eerie, life-sized dolls. With each step, the atmosphere grew heavier, as though the very air within those walls was laced with a palpable malevolence. I couldn't help but wonder about the tormented souls who had once called this asylum home, patients whose suffering had left an indelible mark on the place itself. The hours dragged on, and the initial unease I had felt transformed into a relentless anxiety. The silence of the night was periodically shattered by unsettling sounds that reverberated through the labyrinthine corridors. Creaking floorboards, ghostly whispers, and the faintest, almost phantom-like footsteps played tricks on my senses. As I moved from room to room, the flickering flashlight only added to the illusion that I was never truly alone. Shadows danced upon the peeling wallpaper, each one resembling a spectral presence, and the feeling of being watched never left me. The rooms themselves seemed to hold their own secrets, their walls bearing witness to countless tragedies and horrors. Then, it happened. The soft, haunting melody of a music box began to drift through the air. Its tune was both captivating and deeply unsettling, like a beckoning call from a distant, eerie world. It pulled me, and I couldn't resist its enchantment. I followed its ethereal strains through the darkened labyrinth, compelled by forces beyond my understanding. As I turned a corner, I stumbled upon the entrance to a long-forgotten children's ward. It was a place that time had seemingly abandoned, a relic of a bygone era. The music box sat on an old, weathered crib, its tune growing louder and more hypnotic with each step I took. It was as though the music itself sought to draw me closer, deeper into this abandoned realm of the unknown. And then, in the blink of an eye, the room was plunged into a darkness so profound it felt suffocating. The unsettling laughter of unseen children filled the air, their ghostly presence becoming all too real. Whispering voices called my name, each word laced with a bone-chilling dread that sent shivers down my spine. Panic and disorientation overcame me. I stumbled back, desperately reaching for the flashlight to dispel the engulfing blackness. But as I did, an unseen force seized my wrist with an icy grip. It was as though an invisible hand had reached out from the darkness and dragged me back into the abyss. My screams echoed through the asylum's oppressive stillness, a chilling testament to the inescapable nightmare that had become my reality. I was lost in a world where the living and the dead converged, and the very boundaries of existence were blurred. Morning eventually broke, and with it came the stark reality of the asylum's silence. The music box sat atop the crib, its haunting melody now the only testament to the night's horrors. But I, John, had vanished without a trace, leaving behind only a legacy of dread and a story that would become a part of the asylum's enduring legend. In the years that followed, the asylum continued to stand as a chilling reminder of the night shift horrors.